Welcome to the Wolfkeeper, a show that's just about everything that you can maybe think about, everything that you can feel that's inside of your heart. What I need for you to do right now is spend the next hour relaxing. Just stop your day before you go into 12 o'clock. And I just want y'all to close your minds, open your hearts, and relax and go on this journey with me. It's a beautiful place that you're about to go, because I want to make you feel, I want to just open you up and think about some things you never really thought about. Right now, the Wolfkeeper. Come on. Good morning, y'all. Come on. It's the Wolfkeeper Show. Get ready. Come on, let's go. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. It's the Wolfkeeper Show. Your boy Toriano Sanzoni. Yeah. Chanelli Nell. My boy Tyrone Scott somewhere rocking the Doogie Dogs. Denzel's in his house. Shacky Shack. And for all the people out there that love us, we love you back. Thank you all. Get ready for an amazing show with the Wolfkeeper. Get ready. Here we go. Nilly nil.
Happy Saturday. Good morning. Morning.
Hey,
Mir.
We got a special
yourself.
We got a special guest today.
Hey.
Hey, good morning.
Oh, and Greg Richards too is going.
Greg Richards, the famous. Hey, Greg.
Great. We got
Very cool.
everyone's here today. All right, we got to start a show. A show that's just about everything that you can maybe think about, everything that you can feel that's inside of your heart. What I need for you to do right now is spend the next hour relaxing, just stop your day before you go into 12 o'clock. I just want y'all to close your minds, open your hearts, and relax and go on this journey with me. It's a beautiful place that you're about to go. Cause I want to make you feel, I want to just open you up and think about some things you never really thought about. Right now, the Wolfkeeper. Come on. Good morning, y'all. Come on. It's the Wolfkeeper Show. Get ready. Come on, let's go. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. It's the Wolfkeeper Show. Your boy Studiamo Sanzeri. Yeah. Chanel Hill. My boy Tyrone Scott somewhere rocking the Kentucky Dogs. And Dale's in his house. Check. And for all the people out there that love us, we love you back. Thank you all. Get ready for an amazing show. For the Wolfkeeper. Get ready. Here we go.
Yo, Mary Chen,
Hello.
how you feeling?
I'm good. How are you?
Man, we're all super duper ooper live. Everything is working. When all the technology works, that's a beautiful thing, right, Chanel now?
Yes.
Everything's working, so we're happy about that. We're Instagram live, we're Facebook live, we're Zoom live, and we're Podbean live. And I was just informed yesterday that we're averaging 500 people per episode.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have Greg Richards here too.
What's up, y'all? Happy Saturday.
And special guest sitting in, financial guru Tara G. in the house. Mary Tan, I want to get right into it because you are PR extraordinaire. You're from my homeland, Minnesota. Award-winning journalist. I mean, cat whisperer. You report on cats. And a thing that I'm going to tease everybody about, there is a connection between Mary Tan and one of the most infamous boxers in the world.
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson.
Ooh, the infamous.
Mary Tan has a direct, just give me a yes or no if this is correct, if you have a direct link, a very special direct link to the infamous Mike Tyson.
Mike's awesome.
Yeah. So I
Okay,
don't know if you remember.
No, don't tell us yet. We're gonna.
Oh,
I just
okay.
want to tease everybody.
Ooh, now I have to sit through the whole podcast
that'll
to
be
hear
later.
the Mike Tyson story.
That'll be later in the show. We're gonna talk about.
She was
But,
tigers.
So, Mary Tan, let's first your fabulous resume because we're all business people here. I'm a professional dog trainer. Tara G's professional CPA, accountant, financial guru. This is my financial guru. I mean,
Whoa.
right? How did you start? Tell us, because you've been in this for a while. Your resume is off the chisel.
Well, I'll tell you. So I started out after college. I was a news reporter and anchor in 5 cities across the United States, including Atlanta, Las Vegas, which is connected to the Mike Tyson thing, and most recently here at WCCO TV in Minneapolis, which you know. And after I was like the crime reporter. I used to say, if it bleeds, it leads. If you're dead, I'm live.
Wow.
I know. And so I got sick of it. So I was the person who was either doing crimey things, reporting on crime, or I would be, as you know, in Minnesota, our winters here are harsh. So I would have to go out and stand on the freeway and tell people not to drive because it's snowing.
Wow.
And I got really sick of that. I just, I got a little burned out of news, although I love the career. I'm glad I did it. And then I went into public relations and I went into government communications, where I did a lot of work in public safety.
Can we back up for a second though? Because you're being super modest, because getting on the news to be an anchor, because I also had aspirations of being an anchor, but one small town crushed my dreams when I was at KYC TV in Mankato, Minnesota, reporting on cows, and the local farmer.
I know that.
Yeah, and then this guy looks at me and says, yeah, you're gonna do about 30 of these before you might even consider a sub-market. And I'm like, isn't this a sub-market? He's like, no. So that's a big deal for you. Minneapolis, Vegas. I mean, you were in it. You had pretty much. I'll say one more thing that was told to me by the amazing Art Norman of Chicago. He said anchors are individuals that are picked by God to do God's work. And he was not
Oh my goodness.
You have to be pretty much a beast to, like, how did that, you're being super modest about that.
So I'll tell you, the news business is a cutthroat. It's a hard business.
No.
Oh my gosh. So when I was looking for a job, it took so much, like I wanted it really bad. And so what happened was I drove all over, especially the upper Midwest, going into small markets. I actually went to that station in Mankato. I went to Duluth. I went to Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I went to little markets in Iowa. And I just literally went to the TV stations, knocked on the door, asked the news director if I could meet with them. Sometimes they said yes. Sometimes they said no. And I just said, hey, I really want this. I really want to be a news reporter. And I just pounded the pavement for 6 months. And my goal was to get a job before I graduated from college. And it worked. I mean, every single day, every single moment, I had to get in my car and just drive around. And at that time, it was dropping off physical, like CDs and videotapes. And like I had to go, and you just had to pound the pavement. It's a really, you have to be really.
It's cutthroat. I mean, same thing in your industry, right? Because you all are women of color, and pretty much, let's just keep it real, white, male-dominated industries. No offense, Greg, it's okay. If you guys are. Greg is using his white privilege.
I went to the store to cash out my white privilege, and my credit wasn't good, so I'm a little offended myself.
Right? Sergi, what do you do? I mean, because you're in a male-dominated finance world like Greg, so you're dealing with the Gregs of the world. How do you? What would you say to the little girls that are out there that are trying to get involved? Because both of you all are beasts. You all are dealing with.
You have to be diligent. You have to be, you have to stick with it. You just really have to stick with it. You don't fear anything. I live limitless. I'll tell the girls of the world, stay cute. You can woo any man with cuteness. I don't care how big you are in your life. I don't care. They don't care if my reports are late. They're like, Tara, that's a bonehead mistake. I'm like, I know, but I'm cute. So I keep my job. I work for myself. I believe in myself. And you just got to keep at it. You have to fight anything that you want in this life. You can have. You really can have. But you got to keep at it. Practice makes perfect. And you keep taking those steps. You're going to find challenges. You're going to find obstacles. You're going to find people that don't want you there. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You are the only person that can get in your own way. Life is limitless. Do all that life has to offer. Be an architect. I want to build a gazebo. I can do it. And I am. Guys won't stop me. They won't stop me. Corona won't stop me.
In fact, you bring that up and you are so dead on. So when I was in my news career, my agent at the time told me you have to appeal to white men because they're doing all the hiring.
Right. So I bought a push-up bra. I bought a push-up bra. Yeah, like white men, like big breasts. I found that out.
You could probably make a generalization all men like big breasts.
Well, no, not all. Some of them like big backsides. So I mean, I've been doing my research.
Mary T, I mean, is that true? I mean, because let's keep it real. TV gets a little creepy sometimes. I mean, like there's and let's keep it real. You're a woman of color in Minnesota, one of the whitest states on the planet. I can say that because I lived there. And did you have to jump? And the reason I'm touching on this too, because I really want there's been so many terrible memes just flying around against Kamala Harris. They've been going in on her, and I get politics and everything. I know that, that's how Trump gets down. But like, there's these little girls, and I didn't, this little girl I saw, she's like, oh, I see someone that looks like me. that's the vice president. That's a big deal for young women. I mean, I think that it's if you're a man, it's real easy to like take that for granted, like, oh, okay, whatever. It's like, but
it's a big deal. But we can shield our kids and we can shield their minds from what they see. Don't allow the rest of the world to program a child. You teach that child that no matter what you see, you teach them the negative connotations that's on it. You teach them the way of the world. Right now, everybody's into negativity. People want attention. So whether it's positive attention or negative attention, it's still attention. So if they can get more attention for negativity, they're going to boost and promote all this negativity. So what you do is you center that child in an aura of positivity. You change the way they see things. So when they read those things, it's nastiness. It's disgusting. They won't pay attention. Yeah, they won't pay attention to it. The same way I program my mind. I'm like a 6-year-old kid, like, oh, yucky.
Well, you're one of the most positive people.
I don't want to see that.
You
No,
and
she's
Chanel
a beautiful lady.
are some of the most positive people I know. But Mary T, if you were back in that industry right now, you know what I mean? How would you be navigating? Because even on the news, like depending on what news station you're on, they're saying nasty stuff. I mean, what's your stance on that right now with the negativity in media?
Well, I feel like when I was in the media, it was a different landscape. It's now so polarized. And when I was there, you were supposed to be unbiased. You didn't take any side. But now, you've got CNN, you've got Fox News. And by the way, have you ever noticed that all the news people look alike, dress alike?
Yes.
There's all blondes on Fox.
Yes,
and they got the push-ups.
Everybody's so programmed.
Yes, everybody. Their hair is the same. They all wear the
like, where's the originality?
Yeah, I just like watching.
Yes, but that's all by design, by the way. But if I had to navigate it now, I don't think I could. I would need to be more careful. Like, I would really carefully select who I would choose to work for, because in the past you could be guaranteed that everybody was pretty even keeled. There wasn't this shouting match on cable news. It was just real news. And now entertainment has gotten so far into it, and entertainment plays a huge part in the news because that's the only way to get people to watch now. So in the past, I feel like people just wanted the information, but now it's very visual. I mean, I probably, you definitely have to pay more attention to like how you look and how you sound. Because I feel like when I was in news, it was far more, the news was the star of the show instead of the personalities.
Because we might be joking about what Tara G said about the push-up bra.
Yeah,
but I mean, on Fox, it's a real thing. When I'm like, they have a specific look. There's the blonde with the big boobs, and she has a tight-fitted it's a red skirt on.
But it's like that. It's like that behind the camera in corporate America too. I was 350 as I was coming up in my climb and going through school, and I got turned away from companies. Yeah, I was 350 pounds. Wow. And yeah, I was top of my class, doing everything and going to apply for jobs. And I was told that I did not fit the corporate culture. I had to take jobs that were I felt were beneath me, data entry jobs and things like that. So I was not seen. So I was not brought into meetings because I did not look the part that they wanted me to look for the presentations. I had the information and they took it into meetings and delivered it. And I felt so bad. I felt humiliated a lot of times that I kept working. I kept saying, hey, what's wrong with me? And it was always like a beautiful blonde, beautiful, full-chested. She was gorgeous all the time. I'm like, yeah, she's awesome, but she's taking my information and she's presenting it. And so I had always hoped to be her one day. Like, I would see these ladies and I'm like, man, I want to be her. I want to be in this meeting. And then when I got up there and I got in the meetings, I was like, they don't know nothing. And I bought chicken. And yes, I did. And I celebrated my education and my knowledge because it didn't matter what I looked like. You needed this information to run your company or it was going to crash and burn. So beauty had nothing to do with it. Brains won over everything. Chicken.
Yeah.
So Mary T, with that said, I want to segue and ask you a question. Because in corporate world, fortunately, we're blessed because you work for yourself, I work for myself,
Yes.
you work for yourself. But a lot of people now in the corporate world have that one individual that made the wrong comment to the wrong person. Now they have this huge PR, just like Phoenix going on.
Mm-hmm.
Would you take? Are there any clients out there that you would turn down that you would not take if they were in PR, like burning world, like such as, for example, would you like in like the sexual assault cases, like some of these, because big corporations like right now are like CEOs are saying crazy ass things to women. I mean, just the Kamala Harris, it was like she got announced and it was like attack on women, an attack on black women. Like the memes are off. You know, it was like literally he announced it and I started seeing all these Joe in his whole memes like flying everywhere. You know, so would you take on any of the quote unquote bad guys?
Okay, so the professional part of me is like, I love a good challenge. And in my previous job before my animal stuff, I did a lot of crisis communications because I worked in government, and that was all government was. It was always a crisis. You know, it would depend if I thought that, I mean, from a moral and an ethical standpoint, if I thought there was a hint that person was falsely accused, I might consider taking the case. But if it was a clear, you know, clear crime or it was pretty obvious, I would have a hard time doing that. It's just like being a lawyer.
Let me put you on the spot. Would you take Dave Chewin's case? With Dave Chewin?
You know, that one's kind of a toss up. I might, but my gut feeling says to not take it.
The guy that was convicted of murdering George Floyd, for any listening audience that might not know.
Oh wait, no, you mean Derek Chauvin?
Oh, I'm sorry, I said Dave. No, Derek Chauvin.
Oh, yeah, I would have probably not. I mean, that's just no PR is going to help him. It doesn't matter. It's like no, absolutely not. And there's no PR to do there. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, I guess there could be maybe in the future if he expresses remorse, but for the most part, I would probably say no.
I want to get into public relations because I feel like I could spin his story. I feel like I could spin it.
Mary, are you saying there's no spin there at all?
It's about the view.
No,
it's about how they view it. It's about what they
Is there always a spin? Well, they're trying to spin it now. They're trying to say
it. They do all the time.
Well, actually,
I think that's a lot of where all of this comes from. Like, if we could just dig deep into the perception of what people think, I think we could find solutions and problems. I mean, a lot of times people act in ways that we just don't understand. We don't know where they come from, why they feel like that, where the hate is coming from, and we never really dig deep into, you know, the root of the problem.
Right.
You are so dead on. I believe like a lot of it is understanding.
We ignore all of that.
Yeah. Yep. It's understanding.
There is a spin though for everything.
Yeah.
It is. It's just as a public relations professional, it's like being an attorney. You have to decide. Because to be honest, I would have trouble defending something or spinning something that I didn't personally feel. That's just me.
Yes.
I mean, there's other public relations professionals that it's about the money. If they pay well, they might do it. But I just think that like you have to have. I mean, your ethics have to match what you're spinning.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that's a tough one. I mean, I guess it's much like being a defense attorney. I mean, obviously that's people's professions. Obviously, you have to have a certain appetite to defend someone that you know is guilty. So I'm fascinated with PR because like right now, a lot of places in the world are like on PR craziness. The city of Chicago, I was getting phone calls all last night about the city of Chicago being on complete lockdown.
Yeah.
Today, all the
I didn't know that.
yeah,
oh my
the
gosh.
expressways are being locked down. All the major streets are being locked down. Last weekend we had looting all throughout downtown Chicago. And then
I saw that. Yeah.
they're preparing for looting across the entire city.
Oh my gosh.
Today, which I want to segue into another conversation because we have you there in Minnesota, and Minnesota being the epicenter of a global conceptual pandemic. When I went to the George Floyd Memorial, it was one of the eeriest things I've ever experienced. I mean, literally, it was probably at least 60 people there. No one was talking. You don't even know where to walk because there's like street art, like physical street art everywhere. So you're like, I don't want to step on anything and get in trouble. They had people at checkpoints. They converted the bus shelter into an information center. I mean, it was one of the most intense. Like, I felt different walking out of there. Like it was so heavy. And then we're feeling the effects of that trickling down here to Chicago. What's your, I mean, everyone has a different stance on that. How is Minnesota recovering from that? I mean, because it's like they were trying to blame Corona on China, and we don't know if it's true or not, but we definitely can say Minnesota set off.
Yes, absolutely.
The biggest global fight in the history of the world.
Yeah, I think a lot of Minnesotans, and talking from a lot of my friends are in the news business, people are in shock. When those riots were happening, we're like, this is Minnesota. And, Minnesota is predominantly white too. So it was like really strange, like that you turn on CNN and Fox and MSNBC and Minnesota was on the TV. So a lot of people here, there was a lot of my friends and myself, we brought food down there to try to help the folks. I have a lot of friends who live in the area, and they're really feeling the effects just beyond the actual incident. Their grocery stores are no longer there. They have to drive to go to their neighborhood places now because they're all burned down. And people are still kind of in shock that this got to the level that it did. And I also think people don't realize the racial disparities that were going on up here as well.
And that's a big thing too, because the thing I was super shocked by with Minnesota was the racism against Native Americans that was going on way prior to this, because obviously in Chicago, not obvious, but I mean, we don't have a huge Native American population here, but there was, back when I first got there in 90, when was I there? 92. I was like, wow, they really are mean towards, like, that's a thing up there. And people don't talk about that, or the Hmong community that is discriminated against. And you guys have a huge Ethiopian community there.
Yes.
And why do you think those things aren't talked about at all?
I really think it's the history of the state, and you're talking about many of the resident Minnesotans are Scandinavians. And if you know Scandinavians, they're kind of stoic. I mean, they kind of have that stereotype of being tall, blonde, and quiet. And, I used to live in Atlanta, and it was interesting because down south, it was, I felt like it was more open. It was far easier to talk about race. Up here, people are uncomfortable talking about race. And I think that has to do with the history of the state, and then also, in terms of like there was a lot of redlining going on, and the way they destroyed African American communities in St. Paul to build like some of the major highways and that sort of thing. And that's all like, there's a lot of, they're just not open about talking about race. Of course, the George Floyd thing, I think, changed everything, because I think a lot of white Minnesotans are not aware, especially the ones that are living in, you know, the suburbs, and maybe don't see as many people of color. They have no idea that this was going on. And so I think it's just opening up, it's just calling attention to racism that has never been, that was just pushed underground. People are just really uncomfortable talking about it, when that's what you need to get these issues out in the open and get more unity among the different demographic groups.
And you know, it's interesting because Tara G and I we did a gathering of young people. Got maybe 20, 30 young people together
about 30.
that wanted to talk about George Floyd, which and it was interesting because even while we're sitting there in the area we're at, you actually have to walk to us to engage with us, and it was at least 2 or 3 white men that just were like,
they were very
agitated by the fact we're just sitting there minding our business.
They almost scared these, I mean, they did scare the kids. You know, the kids are out and trying to peacefully protest, trying to understand what's going on and learn that if they stand together, that, you know, and something is going wrong, that they can, you know, impact, they have a say, they have a voice. Well, we're standing there, we're peacefully protesting, and the guys come up, they're aggressive, they're saying things, all lives matter. I mean, the kids are like sweating, they're getting agitated because they're like in their 20s, you know, early 20s, kind of mid 20s. And so they're getting agitated. Yeah, my children were there. And so I had to, my children already know, like, we don't address ignorance with ignorance. We don't, we combat everything with love. We really do. And so I had to stand in the middle of the agitators with my back to them and face the young protesters and speak a message to them. I was scared. I didn't know what the agitators were going to do behind my back. But what I wanted them to know is we don't feed into that, because that's what they do. They draw you out and your message is destroyed. It gets, you know, all caught up and wound up in all the chaos and all the violence and all the anger, and your message is lost. Like for me, I don't see race at all. Racism is something you cannot change because it's a feeling in somebody. You don't know who's carrying it until they act on it. You don't know who's racist. Racism comes from ignorance. It's just not knowing. People fear what they don't know. So if you understand that and you have an understanding for everybody, you don't see color. You see people, and people having a struggle with ignorance. And so we are, those of us who are enlightened and those of us who have knowledge, you conquer racism by informing, by teaching. I have no problem with them filling my hair. Yes, my hair is curly, your hair is straight. Yes, I love your light skin and your blue eyes. You want to touch my coffee brown skin? It's warm. It's, you know, you learn about each other. You learn that you have similarities, you have commonalities, and that's every walk of life. I'm one with the universe, so I'm really trying to preach that to everybody.
That's awesome.
It was interesting, though, and just going back to what happened in Minnesota, I want you to weigh in on this, Mary 10, is that I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't want to do any kind of organized anything. You know, it was brought to me by these young people, and I was like, okay, fine. I'm just like, I don't need any more new projects. But then what's interesting too is, like, when I thought about it, like, these young people, they haven't been in school, because here in Chicago, they were on strike earlier in September, and they've been out of school. So normally, the places where they would normally have some kind of talk about it in the classroom or talk about it in the lunchroom, they experienced George Floyd without any platform. And it's almost that, it's like, as a parent, it's almost like you had to take a responsibility and talk to them in their little groups. I mean, in our little group was supposed to just be 10 people, turned into like 30, 40 people, which you can't really say, hey, group limit max, you know, because they want to, I was just looking in faces of these kids. They
They were
want
hurt.
to talk, and then like I tell people, they say, "Oh, the looting, everything's happening." Like there's such a lack of leadership right now, just in general. Of what do you do? Because you can't have something like that happen and not address it. You mean whether you're addressing one-on-one, addressing in a group. Kids like being in groups. That there's the schools in there. They don't. I mean, it's easier said than done to tell them to social distance because they're not thinking, "Oh, I'm going to catch corona." But are you? With all that said, what's today being, August 15th, 2020? What's the climate like that right now in Minnesota? It's, since May 25th. What's happening right now? Is it cool? Are you guys still bubbling?
I think absolutely. I think there's a lot more discussions going on. I do know that there are resources for kids to come talk about this. There's Minneapolis is a very progressive community, and even though they have a lot of destruction and some buildings that don't look great, I think that a lot of the community groups and a lot of the nonprofits are stepping forward where they are giving opportunities for especially children of color to come together and talk about how they're feeling about this with the help of counselors. I know I think some of the public schools are doing that as well. Being that there's right now, not all the schools are coming back. That's going to be a huge issue. But I know that, and I don't know if you remember, but Minneapolis has a really vibrant neighborhood system, and there's a lot of neighborhood organizers. And I know in a lot of neighborhoods, like the Powderhorn neighborhood, they are doing like community meetings that are socially distanced where you can talk about the issues, where they are talking about racial equity and other kinds of relevant discussions. And I think if it was going to happen here, I think Minnesota is actually a fantastic state for resources. I do feel Minnesota is one of the most resourced states for, I represent a lot of animal welfare groups, but they're just really phenomenal at social services and helping people. And so I do feel that there are resources out here. Of course, there can always be more, but the discussion of race and equity, I do believe, is coming up in the schools as well.
Do you see? In addition to that, what's the vibe right now? Like, for example, here in Chicago, they're preparing for a riot today. So, are you guys on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being riot, George Floyd 2.0, 1 being calm, cool, come visit Mall of America. Where you all at right now?
I actually think things are pretty calm.
That's great.
I think a lot of the rioting that happened in Minneapolis wasn't necessarily locals that were doing it. I could be wrong, but I feel like it has calmed down here. I know the number one thing people are worried about is once the verdicts come out with the 4 officers, if any are found not guilty, they are worried about a second level of rioting. But I do feel it's a little bit more, no offense to you guys living in Chicago, but we're pretty level-headed up here.
We'll own that.
Yeah. Well,
As I drove past a barricade today, I'm surprised you didn't even get over here.
Well, there were barricades on my way here. I think that all of this has created a awesome platform for parents to sit at the table and address these issues with their children, to have those family conversations. How are you feeling? How do you do this? This is a great segue for families to do that. However, we have a lot of youth in Chicago that they don't have the family structure. They have lost their families to senseless gun violence, which has been something that has been plaguing Chicago now for a while. So you have a lot of kids now that are left to raise themselves. You can have all the information in the world, but if you don't know where to go and get it, it's just like not having it. So they don't know that the resources are there. Some of them aren't welcome to it because they've never done this before. It wasn't introduced in the home. So they're uncomfortable to it, and they're listening to social media. If Instagram says, hey, we go fight, then here comes a mob down your street and they're going to go fight. Or, they say, hey, we're going to band together and we're going to do this. So I'm like right now trying to get parents everywhere to fill in the gaps for those that don't have parents. When we see our youth, to stop and talk to them, to not have that fear of them, because right now a lot of adults, we're afraid. We don't know how they're going to respond. We don't know what's going to happen. And then we're thinking about our own children and our own lives. But in able to make things better, we have to be brave on that level. We can't fight the leaders of the free world. We have a choice, the majority rules. So whoever gets picked gets picked. But with our kids, we can do that, and we can minimize a lot of the damage by feeding them knowledge and, overriding their ignorance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
I know some of the streets around the George Floyd area that were shut down previously, they are now opening back up. So there is a level of normalcy that's starting to come back, which is good to see.
And we're gonna, I want to segue to something, and peace out to my friend Craig Smith, who last week in San Francisco, who said he's been watching the show. So thank you, Craig Smith. And he said, could you talk something about COVID and what's happening? So that was our moment in time spending that. Now we're going to talk about something a little less intense. I want to talk about these things right here.
Ooh, cute.
My favorite.
I should have brought my kitty.
For those that don't know, that people think that I am strictly the dog man, but I am not strictly the dog man. That is my Himalayan kitty named Buddha.
She's a smushy-faced kitty.
I love this cat. Cats are so majestic because they just don't give a fuck. They just do what they want.
Yes.
You can't really make them do shit.
They're me. I'm a cat.
A cat. When they take
They
a
don't
shit,
listen.
they take a shit in front of you.
Yeah, don't tell me what to do.
They hide it.
You're my pet.
And they walk on your couch. They walk on your counter. Like, I didn't even realize I was a bad cat owner to my friends. Peace out to Allie and Katie if you're watching. You're like, you're a bad cat owner. Because sometimes with my clients, Tara G, I trained her doggy. She's not only my financial person, but she's and Tara G, she keeping it real. Tara G's dogs were out of control.
My dogs are living la vida loca. They can do whatever they want. They can have whatever.
But I didn't realize that, like, the cat shouldn't be on the counter. That you can control that.
Cats are on the counter.
Oh, my cat, he was like wowed out. He just basically had he'd leave out when he wanted to. He'd come back. He was like slept everywhere. I didn't know that you could even put any kind of structure on cats at all. So Buddha now is he went to cat camp. And he's doing much better. I'm a better cat
There's a
owner.
cat camp,
Right. I just learned about dog camp.
So I'm a better cat. I didn't even know, which I was like, wow, I'm a client. Like when my clients are like, my dog's not that bad.
Yeah.
The dog.
So you're like, what am I going to do?
Parents that are in denial. Not my kid. But no, Buddha's much better now. So Mary T, tell us, how did you get involved? Because you know so much about cats, and then we got to talk about a mutual friend that I met, Sterling. We'll talk about. We're gonna talk about you and your cat. How did you get involved with cats? Because you're like cat queen.
I know, so growing up, I had a traditional, my parents were immigrants. They were traditional Asians and they didn't like pets. In fact, I would ask for pets and my dad would say ZPG, zero pet growth. And I'm like, what? And so my sister and I, when we were in college, we both rebelled, and my sister went the rabbit route, and she had like 8 rabbits at one point and 20 finches, and then I ended up just getting cats, and I had 4 cats, Now I only have one because he's on Prozac and has some issues. He's a little devil is actually what he is. But cats have always, so as a news reporter, I was working long days and I could not get out to let the dog out on a regular basis, but I really wanted a pet. And so that's what attracted me to cats is they had the sense of independence and they could stay home. They didn't have to go outside to go to the bathroom. And so that started it. But then I adopted from my local shelter. And then I started hearing about the plight of pet overpopulation. And I started reading more and more about cats. And I'm going to be honest, cats are second-class pets to dogs. I work I'm the public relations manager for Animal Humane Society here in Minnesota.
Yay.
And it's interesting because in terms of demographics, the wealthier you are, the more likely you are to have a dog and the more dogs you own.
That makes sense.
The less resourced you are, the more cats you have. And so it's a saying, in the animal welfare world that cats are pets of the poor. And if you go into, in fact, if you go into a lot of low income and challenged neighborhoods, there's always a lot of feral cats around. And these cats need to be spayed and neutered. And because cats can procreate so quickly.
Yes, and that's why I want to get
and so I've kind of taken up cats as I want to make a social change. And also cats, the whole crazy cat lady image is really discriminatory towards women and cats. Because when you think of cats, people think of old women, probably old white women wearing moo-moos in a really dirty house with 40 cats.
And you're really
I think, and but look at Toriano, you have Buddha. You're not I
want a black men with cats. I'm starting a group if anyone wants to join.
You're not a cat box lady?
Seen your cat.
He's not a cat box lady.
We've never seen your cat.
I know, because he's kind of.
I guess it's.
I'm gonna bring him to work one day.
Yeah.
He loves dogs too. No, I know that. I don't know any. Which I want to segue over to, because one of your clients, because you own Whisker Media, which I love that Whisker Media.
I do.
And you represent Sterling, the cat dude, which I was in Austin, and a friend of mine you want to go to this party? Is this black guy that's all about hip hop music and cats. I was like, dude, that's fucking crazy. Of course, I can't turn that party down, right? And Sterling's connected to Tech Nine, right?
He was with them for many years. So his story.
I just love that Tech Nine, Sterling, and cats and hip hop.
It doesn't get any better.
Black men and cats and hip hop is the future. That's what's going to save the world. That's going to change everything.
That would.
You have to have him on as a guest, and his whole mission is his motto is you don't lose cool points for compassion. And when he quit Tech Nine to work at an animal shelter cleaning litter boxes,
which is crazy,
his fellow rappers thought he was nuts. And so he went on this mission he talks to a lot of, he loves talking to little African-American boys about the wonderful things about cats. So he's trying to he really wants to target African-American males as cat owners. And it's fantastic. I mean, there's in the animal welfare field, there's no black men in animal welfare. It's just Sterling.
What?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that is it. Now there are some African American women in rescue, but it's not. I mean, I'm trying to think. Sterling is it, and he's the only one talking about diversity and equity in animal welfare.
Wow. And to Mary, I mean, we as Chanelli Nell knows, we always like to bring up the money, right? Because I like to encourage people new careers, and you're about the money. That's what you do. I mean, young black men out there, great profession to get involved in, because I'm not going to go get involved with animal will. I mean, it's a huge industry. I mean, some of the biggest shelters, I mean, right here at Paul, Chicago, they do one event. Their fur ball per year generates about $1.2 million a year. Like just that event by itself. I mean, it's not, don't do it for the money. We don't like to talk about nonprofit and money, but there's a person could make a great living.
And for me, I'm on fire with this information. Like I said, there's a lot of communities out here, they don't know this. They don't know this information. So my brain is on fire because I'm going to distribute this information. I'm going to go ahead, find out what steps have to be taken, put a program together. I might have a group of little 8-year-old boys that already love cats and dogs. And it's like, this is how you give back. And you give them that information and you funnel it through these communities. And now we have Black male rescuers, you know. But I bet you if you go to, I know I was raised in Inglewood. I didn't know anything about being a rescuer. I just took care of every cat and dog and bird that fell out of the tree. I still do. But if I knew the path to be on for that to be a career, you know, or profession for me, that was something I definitely would have done because I have the heart to do it already. But if, you know, with that,
and Mary T just brought a good point because about cats in the hood, because you just found a cat.
Oh, my cat, my kitty is so bad. And my ex, Cheyenne, I asked my daughter, where did she find a cat? And she found her in Roseland. I said, see, that's why she's a gangster kitty. Yeah, our kids, our dogs are suburban, and she keeps sticking her hand in the cage and smacking him in the nose. I'm like, she's rough. She came from a rough neighborhood. Yeah, she's a tough kid.
There's cats in it.
It's my guardian cat.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And so Sterling goes into, so he does what's called TNR. Do you guys know what trap, neuter, return is? Mm-hmm. So TNR is the only way to solve the overpopulation problem in cats. So what he does is a lot of the cats, they're called community cats, and community cats can be either stray cats that people have just abandoned and left outside, or they're feral cats. And feral cats don't want to be petted, they just live outside, and they were not fixed. So what Sterling does is he uses a special kind of cage that traps these cats humanely. He lures them in usually with mackerel or KFC. They love KFC chicken. And
they're from the hood, of course.
It's made up.
And so he traps them, and then he lives in Atlanta. He works with Atlanta Humane Society and another nonprofit called Pet Parenthood. I think that's the cutest name. And they spay and neuter all these cats, and then he releases them back into the neighborhood where he found them. And so a lot of TNR is done. I mean, cat rescue is, let's face it, it's almost all white women. So there have been instances where these white women were going into these predominantly African-American neighborhoods, and there was a lot of suspicion there, like, what are you doing? So Sterling goes in and talks to these communities about what is happening, and he actually is a minimalist and lives in poverty himself, even though he has a nonprofit. He lives out of his van. And he uses all the money that he raises through donations to pay for spaying and neutering of these animals. And so on any given day, he's out in the middle of the night trapping cats. And then by 7 a.m., he's out in front of Atlanta Humane Society's low-cost veterinary clinic. He's got 20 cats lined up, all ready to be spayed and neutered. And then he picks them up at the end of the day and releases them back. And these cats will no longer have babies, or kittens, which is what solves the population issues.
Wow.
I love this. I mean, that is
amazing.
Yeah, he's just an absolute sweetheart, and you know, he gets
great
a lot
guy.
of.
I mean, for him to leave, I mean, Tech Nine is an internationally known artist, and here he is, which I get, because the same thing when I left the music industry, people were like, why are you picking up dog food? You left the music industry, but you just change your career. That's all I've done for the last 20 years. So big shout out to Sterling. Mary, I'm putting you on the spot before we close this show out. I normally ask guests, will they come back in January? Which I know I'm going all in on you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's one yes. Let's keep them going. Yeah. I'm going to be in Minnesota on August 28th. Can we do like a live broadcast? Mary Tan,
absolutely.
Yeah, okay. And now the big ask.
Yeah.
Dana Humphrey helped us curate the entire month of August. Can you help us curate the entire month of October with Cattober?
I'm pretty sure I can. Yeah.
Oh.
Yay.
I'm taking that as a yes. Okay, before we go, as I promised, Mary Tan is connected to Mike Tyson in some shape, way, and form. What do you think, Cherokee? How is Mary Tan connected to Mike Tyson?
How is she? I think she takes care of his tigers. She helps him with his tigers.
I've actually seen his tigers.
So, Chanelli Nell, what do you think Mary Tan's connection is to Mike Tyson?
I don't know. I think she's connected somewhere with some of his pets. I don't know.
All right. Mary Tan. This is so unbelievable. That's why your resume is off the chain. That's why you and I, first time we talked for like at least an hour and a half because you were supposed to do another phone call, but you ended up talking to me, and I know I was talking and walking, so I made it around the entire block, like all the way to the end of my block, back to Ashland, and I came back to my store, and you're like, okay, for real, I got to go now. It's so amazing. Mary Tan's connection to Mike Tyson. She was the first person to interview Holyfield.
Evander Holyfield.
After he got his ear bit.
Oh man! After the dinner fight.
Mary, how did that go? Like, how does that even go down? Like, how do you even get in that situation? And then what do you say? Like, what? I mean,
it's like, how's your ear?
Yeah. So basically, that night of the fight, I was outside on the red carpet interviewing the celebrities as they walked in for the big fight, and like probably halfway, I want to say like a quarter ways into the fight was when the ear bite happened. And I was the only reporter for my station that was stationed outside that could get to the hospital as soon as possible. So they rushed me and my photographer to the emergency room in Las Vegas at their main hospital there right away. So by the time I got there, there were already like maybe 70, 80 journalists and photographers waiting outside to get an interview with him after.
Wow.
But what happened was I had to go to the bathroom. This is what's crazy. And so I asked the security guard where the bathroom was because I figured I had time or whatever. So he's like, oh, it's on the second floor, but just take the stairwell. I'm walking up the stairwell and Evander's walking down by himself.
No way.
Yes. And so I said to him, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. Your ear looks good. I said, how are you feeling? He's like,
No
I'm
way.
feeling much better. I'm like, hey, would you be willing to do a one-on-one interview with me?
No way.
I said, I know there's a lot of people up front, but could we go in the back of the hospital? So he's like, sure. He was so nice and so calm. And so I took him, I managed, I don't know how, because he didn't know the hospital either. So we walked around to the back.
No, wait a minute.
Photographer.
Just back up, Mary Tan, for a second here. You're hanging out with Evander Holyfield after he just got bit in the ear, like part of his ear is missing, and you're walking with him down a stairwell.
In a hospital, they don't know where they're at.
And is he by himself?
Yes, and see,
No
that's what
way.
I don't understand. Where was his publicist and all of these? Where was his entourage?
Yes.
But none of his entourage was there, and so I took him to the back of the hospital through a side door, and
You could have been a Mike Tyson spy.
Pardon?
You could have been a Mike Tyson spy or anything.
I know.
Like, here's the other ear. Ah.
Yeah, and so I took him to the back. My photographer got there with the live truck in seconds. I called my producer and I said, I have Evander Holyfield, but I only have him for a few minutes. You need to get us on live now. So everybody rushed to make it happen. We made the top of the news. And as soon as, I would say, 30 seconds into the interview, the horde of other reporters realized it, and they ran to the back of the hospital where I was interviewing Evander live. And as soon as I finished, it was just, he was surrounded. I felt bad for him. It was like this gush of media all over him. But that's how I got the first interview, just because I had to go to the bathroom.
Ooh. Did you get his cell phone number?
I didn't. I know. But you know what? News, let me tell you this. And actually a lot of successful people say that it's just being in the right place at the right time.
Right.
That's what it is all about.
That's what it's all about. OMG, we just covered like a whole bunch of ground like today.
Welcome to the Wolfkeeper.
I want to thank everybody. Just like, man, Tara G.
Think about everything
in the house today. Thanks, Tara G, for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
Mary, we are expecting like super big things for you to help us out curating because you and Dana work together. On
Yeah,
Friday.
she's awesome.
Oh, she's super cool. And peace out to Dana who helped curate all this stuff and made a lot of everything happen. Chanelli Nell, are you still there?
Yes, sir. I'm still here.
Chanelli Nell was at the club all night last night, and she still managed to wake up and jump on this podcast. We thank you, Chanelli Nell. You're always a
club quarantine.
All right.
Should have been you.
So go out. I want everyone to be safe, be cool, love somebody, give some love, man.
Yeah.
Be cool. Mary T, I can't wait to see you in a couple of weeks.
I know, it's going to be awesome.
In Minnesota.
Yeah.
Right. Tell them I'm coming for them. Wolfkeeper going to be there. Peace and love, everybody out there. This is it. See you all on Monday. No show tomorrow. We didn't book. I got the day off. But and thank you for everybody. 500 plus followers listening to this live. That's crazy. All right. Peace and love.